There is one mystery every human being will face, yet almost no one truly understands. The moment when the final breath leaves the body and the soul begins a journey no living eyes can fully witness. The Vedas describe this journey not as a single path, but as a series of hidden doors. Each door reveals the state of the soul, the weight of its karma, and the direction of its next destiny. Some doors lead toward higher realms of light, others return the soul to another birth, and one door opens to the freedom every soul has sought across countless lifetimes. This audiobook is not meant to create fear. It is meant to replace uncertainty with ancient wisdom. As we walk through these 7 sacred doors together, you may discover that the way you live today quietly determines which door your soul will one day cross. Let us begin the journey beyond death. Chapter 1. The first door, the door of separation. The Vedas teach that death is not the end of life. It is the moment when the soul quietly steps out of one chapter and enters another. The first door every soul must face is the door of separation, the sacred moment when consciousness begins to detach from the physical body. For most of our lives, we believe we are the body. We identify ourselves by our name, our face, our age, our achievements, and our possessions. But the Vedas repeatedly remind us that these are only temporary garments worn by the eternal Atman. Just as a traveler removes old clothes before putting on new ones, the soul eventually leaves behind the body that has completed its purpose. This first door opens at the exact moment when the bond between the body and the soul begins to dissolve. The senses gradually become silent. The eyes no longer recognize the world they once saw. The ears no longer hear familiar voices. The hands can no longer hold the people they love. Yet according to Vedic wisdom, awareness itself does not disappear. The soul remains conscious, witnessing the final moments from a perspective completely different from anything experienced during earthly life. For someone who spent life attached only to the material world, this separation can feel confusing. Everything they believed belonged to them must suddenly be left behind. Wealth cannot follow. Titles lose their meaning. The body they protected for decades can no longer be carried forward. The first door teaches the soul its greatest lesson. Nothing external was ever truly yours. But for the person who spent life seeking truth, practicing compassion, fulfilling dharma, and remembering the divine, this same door is not terrifying. It is gentle. There is sadness in leaving loved ones, yet there is also a profound sense of peace, because the soul recognizes that it is not falling into darkness. It is returning to a journey that has continued through countless lifetimes. The Vedas encourage us to prepare for this moment, long before it arrives. Preparation does not mean fearing death. It means living in such a way that when the first door opens, there is nothing within us filled with regret, hatred, or unfinished attachment. Every act of kindness, every moment of forgiveness, every honest decision, and every step taken according to dharma lightens the soul as it approaches this sacred passage. Think of a bird that has lived inside a beautiful cage. Even if the cage is made of gold, it was never the bird's true home. The body is much like that cage. It allows the soul to learn, to grow, to love, and to fulfill its karmic lessons. But eventually the door opens, and the soul is invited to fly once again. The first door is not asking whether you were rich or famous. It asks only one question: have you remembered that you are more than the body you lived in? The answer to that question quietly determines how peacefully your soul walks through the doors that follow. Chapter 2. The second door, the door of reflection. Once the soul has passed beyond the body, the Vedas describe a second and deeply significant passage, the door of reflection. This is not a courtroom where a distant judge announces punishment or reward. Instead, it is a sacred encounter with truth itself. Every illusion that once hid behind pride, excuses, or self-deception begins to dissolve, and the soul sees its earthly life exactly as it was. During life, it is easy to justify our actions. We tell ourselves that anger was necessary, selfishness was deserved, or dishonesty caused no real harm. We become skilled at defending our choices because the noise of the world gives us endless distractions. But beyond the body, those distractions disappear. The soul stands before its own consciousness, and nothing remains hidden. The Vedas teach that karma is not merely a record of actions. It is the living imprint every thought, intention, word, and deed leaves upon the soul. At this second door, those imprints become perfectly clear. Moments that once seemed small reveal their true weight. A single act of compassion may shine brighter than years spent chasing wealth. A quiet sacrifice, made out of genuine love, may carry greater spiritual value than achievements celebrated by the entire world. What makes this reflection extraordinary is that the soul does not simply remember what it did, it understands how its actions affected others. Every kind word that gave someone hope is felt again. Every harsh word that caused another person pain is experienced with complete awareness. Every opportunity to forgive, to serve, to speak truth, or to remain silent when wisdom required, it becomes part of this sacred understanding. This is why the Vedas encourage conscious living. Every ordinary day is quietly shaping what the soul will one day witness at this door. Nothing is truly insignificant. The conversation you almost ignored, the stranger you chose to help, the anger you decided not to express, the temptation you resisted, and the kindness you offered without expecting recognition, all become part of the invisible wealth carried beyond death. Many people spend their entire lives trying to create an impressive image for others. They seek admiration, applause, and success, believing these things define a meaningful existence. But the door of reflection is untouched by appearances. It does not care how respected you seemed or how many possessions you collected. It asks only what your heart became while you were living. Did success make you more humble or more arrogant? Did suffering make you wiser or more bitter? Did love make you more compassionate or more attached? Did knowledge transform your character, or did it simply satisfy your pride? These are the questions that cannot be avoided when the soul stands before its own truth. The Vedas remind us that every challenge placed before us was also an invitation to grow. Difficult people tested our patience. Loss taught us detachment. Failure humbled the ego. Success tested our integrity. Even suffering carried hidden opportunities to awaken qualities that comfort and pleasure alone could never develop. At this second door, the soul begins to understand that nothing in life happened without purpose. The joys were gifts. The hardships were teachers. The delays protected unseen paths. The relationships revealed hidden parts of ourselves. What once appeared random now forms a perfect pattern woven by karma and divine wisdom. For souls who lived with awareness, this reflection is not something to fear. It becomes a moment of profound gratitude. They recognize that every sincere effort to choose truth over illusion strengthened their journey. Even their mistakes become valuable because they accepted responsibility, learned from them, and allowed those experiences to transform their character. But for souls who spent their lives avoiding truth, blaming others, or living only for temporary pleasures, this door becomes far more difficult. The pain does not come from divine anger. It comes from finally seeing the countless opportunities for growth that were ignored. The greatest sorrow is often realizing how much love could have been shared, how much wisdom could have been embraced, and how much unnecessary suffering was created through unconscious choices. Yet even here, the Vedas offer hope rather than despair. Reflection is not meant to destroy the soul, it is meant to awaken it. The purpose of seeing the truth is not punishment, but preparation. Only by fully understanding the life that has just ended can the soul continue its eternal journey with greater wisdom. Every realization becomes a seed for future growth. Every honest insight weakens ignorance. Every acceptance of responsibility moves the soul one step closer to liberation. The second door quietly reminds us that the greatest witness to our lives has never been the world around us. It has always been the soul within us. And one day, when all distractions have faded and every mask has fallen away, the only life that will matter is the one your own soul remembers. Chapter 3. The third door, the door of karma. After the soul has separated from the body and reflected upon the life it has just completed, it arrives at the third door, the door of karma. This is one of the most profound teachings preserved within the Vedas, for it reveals that nothing in existence is accidental. Every choice, every intention, every act of compassion or cruelty, every truth spoken or hidden, every attachment embraced or released, has quietly shaped the path the soul now walks. Many people imagine karma as a system of reward and punishment, but the Vedas describe something far more extraordinary. Karma is not a judge standing outside the soul. Karma is the natural law of cause and effect, woven into the very fabric of creation. Just as a seed inevitably grows into the tree hidden within it, every action plants a seed in consciousness that will one day bear its fruit. The third door is where those seeds become visible. Here the soul begins to understand that its destiny was never created by chance. The opportunities it received, the relationships it experienced, the talents it carried, and even the hardships it endured were connected to causes extending far beyond a single lifetime. What once appeared unfair now begins to reveal a deeper order. The Vedas explain that every soul travels through countless births, gathering experiences, wisdom, attachments, and unfinished lessons. Nothing is forgotten by the universe. The smallest act of kindness continues to shine long after the body has turned to dust. Likewise, every selfish action, every broken promise, and every moment of deliberate harm leaves an imprint that remains until understanding replaces ignorance. Standing before the door of karma, the soul no longer asks, "Why did this happen to me?" Instead, it begins asking, "What was this experience trying to teach me?" That single change transforms everything. Many of the difficulties that once felt like punishment are recognized as opportunities. The person who betrayed you may have awakened your strength. The loss that broke your heart may have taught you detachment. The failure you desperately tried to avoid may have protected you from a future built upon pride instead of wisdom. The soul begins to see that life was never working against it. Life was patiently guiding it. At this sacred door, every relationship reveals its hidden purpose. Some people entered your life to offer love, others arrived to expose fear. Some encouraged your highest qualities, while others uncovered wounds that had remained hidden for lifetimes. Even those who caused pain became unwilling teachers, forcing the soul to choose forgiveness over resentment, courage over fear, and awareness over unconscious reaction. The Vedas teach that karma is shaped not only by what we do, but by the intention behind every action. Two people may perform the same outward act, yet create entirely different karma. One may give generously out of compassion, another may give only to receive praise. The action appears identical, but the consciousness behind it determines the spiritual consequence. Nothing can deceive the law of karma. Not reputation, not wealth, not influence, not clever words, only the truth carried within the heart. The third door also reveals something many people overlook during life. Karma is not only created through action, it is also created through inaction. Every opportunity to help that was ignored, every truth left unspoken because of fear, every gift buried beneath comfort, and every chance to grow that was postponed becomes part of the soul's unfolding journey. The greatest regrets are often not the mistakes we made. They are the possibilities we never had the courage to live. As the soul continues its reflection, It realizes that karma is neither cruel nor merciless. It is astonishingly compassionate. Every consequence exists for one purpose: to awaken wisdom. Every repeated lesson continues only because understanding has not yet fully blossomed. Once genuine awareness arises, the same cycle no longer needs to repeat itself. Imagine a teacher who patiently presents the same lesson until the student truly understands it. The teacher is not angry. The lesson is not punishment. It simply remains unfinished. The universe works in much the same way. Every challenge returns with different faces, different places, and different people until the soul learns what it once refused to see. Some spend lifetime after lifetime chasing wealth, only to discover that peace cannot be purchased. Others seek endless approval until they realize that self-worth cannot be borrowed from another person's opinion. Some cling desperately to relationships, only to learn that love can never grow where attachment becomes possession. Each repeated experience is another knock upon the same spiritual door, not because the universe enjoys seeing us struggle, but because the soul deserves to awaken. The Vedas remind us that no sincere effort toward goodness is ever wasted. Every moment of patience weakens anger. Every act of forgiveness dissolves old karma. Every honest decision purifies consciousness. Every step taken according to dharma changes the direction of future lifetimes in ways the human mind can scarcely imagine. Long before the soul reaches liberation, it first reaches understanding, and understanding changes destiny. The third door finally reveals a truth that few discover while still alive. Your future has never been written by fate alone. It has always been written by the consciousness you choose to cultivate in every ordinary moment of your life. For when the door of karma opens, the soul discovers that every thought became a seed, every choice became a path, and every path quietly shaped the eternity that awaited beyond death. Chapter 4. The Fourth Door, the Door of the Higher Realms. Beyond the door of karma lies a passage that fills the human heart with both wonder and humility. The fourth door, known in Vedic wisdom as the door of the higher realms. This is the moment when the soul begins to move toward the destination that perfectly reflects the consciousness it has cultivated across its earthly life. The Vedas teach that death does not send every soul to the same place. Just as rivers flow toward different oceans according to their course, every soul is drawn toward a realm that resonates with its own inner nature. This is not because the universe plays favorites, nor is it because the divine divides souls into the worthy and the unworthy. The movement of the soul is governed by a deeper law. Consciousness naturally seeks its own level, just as a flame always rises upward and a stone falls toward the earth. Every thought you nourished, every desire you strengthened, every attachment you protected, and every virtue you cultivated quietly shaped the vibration of your soul long before your final breath. The fourth door simply reveals where that vibration now belongs. The Vedas describe existence as far greater than the physical world we see with our eyes. Beyond this earthly plane exist countless realms of experience, each reflecting different states of consciousness. Some are radiant worlds filled with beauty, wisdom, and divine harmony. Others are temporary realms where souls continue learning the lessons they resisted during earthly life. None of these realms are eternal destinations except the final state of liberation. They are sacred stages in the soul's endless journey toward complete awakening. As the soul approaches this door, it begins to experience an extraordinary sense of lightness. The burden of the physical body has already been left behind. Time itself begins to lose its familiar meaning. The measurements of days, months, and years no longer exist in the same way they did on earth. The soul realizes that what once seemed like an entire lifetime was only a brief chapter in an existence stretching far beyond human imagination. For souls who lived according to dharma, who served others without selfish expectation, who pursued truth over illusion, and who remembered the divine amid the distractions of the world, the fourth door opens with remarkable peace. They are naturally drawn toward luminous realms described throughout the Vedas as places where wisdom flourishes, suffering diminishes, and spiritual growth continues under conditions far more harmonious than earthly existence. Imagine awakening after a long and exhausting journey to discover a landscape more beautiful than anything the senses could have imagined. There is no fear, no competition, no deception, no hunger for status or possessions. The soul feels surrounded by an atmosphere of profound serenity because it has entered a realm that reflects the purity it cultivated within itself. But the Vedas also remind us that these heavenly realms, magnificent though they are not the soul's ultimate destination. This surprises many seekers. Human beings often dream of reaching heaven as the final reward. Yet the ancient sages explained that even the most glorious celestial worlds remain part of the cycle of existence. When the merit accumulated through righteous actions has fulfilled its purpose, the soul eventually continues its journey according to the karma that still remains unresolved. Heaven offers rest, joy, and spiritual refinement, but it is not the final freedom the soul has sought across countless births. This teaching reveals one of the greatest insights of Vedic philosophy. The goal is not merely to reach a beautiful place. The goal is to become free from needing any place at all. At this fourth door, the soul also encounters the immense compassion woven into the universe. Every lifetime, every challenge, every relationship, every success, and every hardship was never designed to trap the soul. Everything served as preparation for greater awakening. Even those moments that once seemed meaningless now reveal themselves as carefully placed stepping stones leading toward higher consciousness. The soul begins to understand that nothing was ever wasted. Not a single prayer whispered during moments of despair. Not a single act of forgiveness that no one witnessed. Not a single sacrifice made for the sake of truth. Not a single tear shed while remaining faithful to dharma. The universe remembered every one of them. Many people spend their lives believing that only great achievements matter. They dream of becoming famous, wealthy, admired, or powerful. Yet standing before the fourth door, the soul discovers that heaven itself is not impressed by worldly applause. The measure of greatness was never found in how loudly the world celebrated you. It was found in how deeply your heart transformed while no one was watching. Did you choose kindness when anger was easier? Did you remain truthful when deception promised reward? Did you continue walking the path of righteousness when no one applauded your efforts? These silent victories became treasures that no earthly wealth could ever purchase. The Vedas speak of sages whose outward lives appeared ordinary, yet whose inner consciousness shone brighter than kings. They understood that every ordinary moment carries extraordinary spiritual significance. Every decision either lifts the soul toward higher awareness or strengthens the chains that bind it to ignorance. The fourth door reveals that spiritual elevation never happens suddenly after death. It is built slowly during life. Every meditation purifies the mind. Every selfless act softens the ego. Every desire surrendered weakens attachment. Every moment spent remembering the divine becomes a light that continues shining long after the body has disappeared. As the soul journeys deeper into these higher realms, it feels an overwhelming clarity. The fears that once dominated earthly life begin to dissolve. There is no anxiety about tomorrow because time itself has changed. There is no desperate need to prove one's worth because the soul finally recognizes its eternal nature. There is no loneliness because separation itself was always an illusion created by identification with the temporary body. Yet even within these radiant worlds, one quiet truth remains. The journey is not finished. the soul senses that beyond every heavenly realm lies something infinitely greater, a freedom beyond pleasure, beyond pain, beyond birth, beyond death, beyond every cycle that has carried it through countless ages. The fourth door therefore offers both magnificent reward and profound reminder. It shows the soul the beauty that righteous living can create. But it also whispers that even the most beautiful realm is still only another doorway. For the eternal destination of the soul is not simply to reach heaven, it is to awaken completely to its divine nature and continue toward the final door that no longer leads to another world, but to the end of all wandering. Chapter 5. The fifth door, the door of returning or rising. Beyond the radiant realms described by the Vedas lies a door unlike any before it. The fifth door is not simply another destination, it is a turning point in the eternal journey of the soul. Here, the soul stands at the edge of two possibilities. One path leads back into the world of birth and death, where unfinished karma continues its lessons. The other leads upward toward a state of consciousness so refined that the soul comes closer than ever before to liberation. This is the door of returning or rising. It is here that the wisdom gained through countless lifetimes begins to reveal its true value. The Vedas explain that no soul is sent back to earth by accident, nor does any soul rise toward higher spiritual realization by mere chance. Every movement is governed by the perfect harmony of karma, dharma, and divine intelligence. The universe is never random. Every return serves a purpose. Every ascent reflects an awakening already taking place within the soul. Imagine a student who has spent years studying under a wise teacher. If certain lessons remain incomplete, the student must return to the classroom, not as punishment, but because true understanding has not yet blossomed. Only when every lesson has been absorbed does the student move forward. The soul follows the same eternal principle. Many human beings fear rebirth because they imagine it as endless suffering. But the Vedas invite us to see rebirth differently. Every new life is another opportunity granted by divine compassion. It is another chance to overcome ignorance, dissolve old karma, deepen wisdom, and move closer to the realization of one's eternal nature. The fifth door reveals that life itself has always been an act of grace. Every sunrise you witnessed, every person you loved, every challenge you struggled through, every failure that humbled your pride, every unexpected blessing, none of these experiences were meaningless. Each one was carefully woven into the soul's education. Standing before this sacred door, the soul begins to perceive its entire history, not merely the lifetime that has just ended, but echoes of many lives stretching across ages beyond human memory. The Vedas teach that the soul has worn countless bodies, spoken countless languages, lived among different cultures, walked as both rich and poor, strong and weak, celebrated and forgotten. The identities changed, the bodies changed. The names disappeared, but the traveler remained the same. For the first time, the soul understands why certain fears seem to exist without explanation. It recognizes why particular places felt strangely familiar. It understands why some people were loved instantly, while others stirred conflict from the very beginning. What once seemed mysterious now becomes part of an elegant pattern connecting one lifetime to another. Nothing existed in isolation. Every meeting had roots. Every separation had purpose. Every reunion carried unfinished karma. The fifth door unveils this magnificent tapestry. The soul also discovers that karma is astonishingly precise. It never seeks revenge. It never acts from anger. It simply creates opportunities for balance. If compassion was withheld, life created circumstances to awaken compassion. If power was abused, future experiences taught humility. If love became possessiveness, future relationships taught detachment. If truth was ignored, life repeatedly invited the soul toward honesty until wisdom finally emerged. This is why the Vedas insist that karma is one of the greatest expressions of divine justice. It never condemns, it educates, it never humiliates, it awakens, it never abandons the soul. It patiently walks beside it across lifetimes until ignorance gives way to understanding. As the soul reflects upon this truth, another realization begins to dawn. The greatest prison was never the cycle of birth itself. The true prison was unconsciousness. Many people imagine freedom as escaping the world, yet the sages taught that liberation begins long before the final release from rebirth. A person who lives without greed, hatred, arrogance, jealousy, and attachment has already begun breaking the chains while still walking upon the earth. The body may still exist, the world may still surround them, but inwardly, something profound has changed. The soul no longer lives as a prisoner of desire. It becomes a witness. This is why some souls approaching the fifth door are naturally drawn upward rather than immediately returning to another earthly birth. Through many lifetimes of sincere effort, meditation, selfless service, devotion, and unwavering commitment to dharma, their consciousness has become lighter. The dense weight of selfish desires no longer pulls them back with the same force. The Vedas compare this to a bird learning to fly. At first, it cannot leave the ground. Again and again, it falls. Again and again, it tries. Each attempt strengthens its wings. Eventually, there comes a moment when flight no longer requires struggle. The bird simply rises. The soul follows this same sacred law. Every lifetime devoted to truth strengthens invisible wings. Every act of compassion lifts consciousness. Every victory over anger weakens the gravity of ignorance. Every moment spent remembering the divine loosens another knot, binding the soul to the endless wheel of samsara. But there is another side to this door. Not every soul is ready to rise. Some remain deeply attached to the world they have left behind. They continue longing for possessions that no longer belong to them. They cling to relationships they refuse to release. They carry anger toward those who wronged them. They continue chasing desires that death itself could not extinguish. The Vedas explain that these attachments become powerful currents, drawing the soul back toward earthly existence. This is why detachment is not the rejection of love. It is the purification of love. True love liberates. Attachment imprisons. One says, "May you grow, even if I must let you go." The other whispers, "You belong to me." The soul standing before the fifth door understands this difference more clearly than ever before. Every attachment appears as a chain. Every act of surrender appears as a key. Every selfish desire becomes a weight. Every selfless action becomes a pair of wings. The astonishing beauty of this door is that nothing is hidden anymore. The soul cannot pretend. It cannot deceive itself. It sees exactly what still binds it and exactly what has already been transformed. There is no shame in this realization, only truth. Only clarity, only the quiet invitation to continue evolving. The ancient rishis often reminded their students that human birth is one of the rarest opportunities in all creation, not because humans are superior to other forms of life, but because human consciousness possesses the unique ability to consciously choose dharma over desire, wisdom over ignorance, compassion over selfishness, and truth over illusion. Every day of earthly life is therefore sacred. Not because life is permanent, but because every day offers another chance to change the direction of eternity. As the fifth door slowly opens, the soul realizes that every lifetime has been preparing it for one magnificent discovery. It was never searching for another world. It was always searching for itself. Whether the journey continues through another birth or rises toward still higher realms, one truth has become undeniable. Every sincere step toward wisdom has never been lost. Every prayer has been heard. Every sacrifice has been remembered. Every lesson has shaped the eternal traveler. And with each passing lifetime, the soul comes closer to the day when no door will lead back into the cycle again, but onward toward the timeless freedom that the Vedas call the highest destiny of all. Chapter 6. The Sixth Door, the Door of Liberation. After passing through the doors of separation, reflection, karma, higher realms, and the great choice between returning and rising, the soul arrives before the most mysterious doorway described in the Vedas. This is not merely another passage. It is the doorway that every sage, every rishi, every yogi, and every sincere seeker has spent lifetimes preparing to reach. The sixth door is known as the Door of Liberation. Unlike every door before it, this one does not ask where the soul wishes to go. It asks something far greater. Has the soul finally remembered who it truly is? For countless births, the soul has wandered through the endless wheel of samsara. It has experienced birth and death beyond human imagination. It has known kingdoms and poverty, victory and defeat, love and separation, health and sickness, praise and rejection. It has worn the bodies of different races, cultures, languages, and generations. Each lifetime felt unique. Each identity seemed permanent. Each body appeared to be me, yet every one of them eventually disappeared. Names faded into history. Faces returned to dust. Families became distant memories. Cities vanished. Empires crumbled. Entire civilizations rose and disappeared, while the soul continued its silent journey. Standing before the sixth door, the soul finally understands something that escaped it through countless incarnations. It was never any of those identities. It was only wearing them. The Vedas compare the body to clothing. No person believes they become their garments simply because they wear them. Yet throughout life, humanity mistakes the body for the self. The soul says, I am young, I am old, I am beautiful, I am weak, I am successful, I am a failure. But the eternal self has never possessed age. It has never possessed beauty. It has never possessed status. Those belonged only to temporary bodies moving through temporary worlds. The sixth door removes the final illusion. Here, the soul no longer sees itself through the eyes of the world. It sees itself through the light of eternity. This realization is not intellectual. It is direct. It is immediate. It is overwhelming. Imagine spending your entire life believing you were a wave upon the ocean. You fought other waves. You compared yourself to larger waves. You feared disappearing. You celebrated becoming bigger. But suddenly you discover something astonishing. You were never merely a wave. You were always the ocean itself. The wave appeared. The wave disappeared. But the ocean remained unchanged. The Vedas declare that the relationship between the individual soul and the supreme reality is much like this. Ignorance creates separation. Wisdom reveals unity. This is why liberation cannot be achieved simply by dying. If death alone brought liberation, every living creature would become free the moment life ended. But the ancient sages repeatedly remind us that death changes the body. Only knowledge changes the soul. The door of liberation opens only when ignorance has been completely dissolved. Not partially, not occasionally. Entirely. At this sacred threshold, every remaining attachment is revealed one final time. The soul is shown every desire that still whispers, I want. Every fear that still says, I might lose. Every pride that quietly believes, I am greater, every resentment still refusing forgiveness, every illusion still claiming permanence in an impermanent world. The astonishing truth is that none of these are forced away. The soul releases them willingly, because now it finally understands. Throughout countless births, it searched for happiness in possessions, but possessions disappeared. It searched for happiness in power. Power disappeared. It searched for happiness in relationships. Relationships changed. It searched for happiness in recognition. Recognition faded. It searched for happiness in the body. The body grew old. Everything it chased eventually slipped away, not because the universe was cruel, but because temporary things were never capable of satisfying an eternal soul. The Vedas explain that desire itself is not the enemy. Attachment to desire is, a lotus grows from muddy water, yet remains untouched by it. In the same way, the liberated soul lives within creation without becoming imprisoned by creation. This is the wisdom every great sage eventually discovers. To enjoy without clinging, to love without possessing, to serve without expecting, to act without selfishness, to give without pride, to live without fear. Such a soul becomes extraordinarily peaceful. Not because life suddenly becomes easy, but because nothing external has the power to disturb its inner awareness. Standing before the sixth door, the soul witnesses the complete map of its eternal pilgrimage. It sees lifetimes that once seemed disconnected, now forming one magnificent design. The child who suffered early loss learned compassion. The king who abused power returned as the servant who discovered humility. The wealthy merchant learned generosity only after experiencing poverty. The warrior consumed by anger eventually became the sage teaching peace. The mother, whose heart broke through grief, awakened unconditional love. Nothing was meaningless. Nothing was accidental. Everything belonged to the education of consciousness. The soul now understands why the Vedas never describe life as punishment. Life is a sacred school. Earth is not a prison. It is a classroom. Every birth is another lesson. Every challenge another examination. Every relationship another opportunity to awaken. Some students graduate quickly. Others repeat the same lessons for centuries, but no sincere effort is ever wasted. The universe patiently waits, not because time is endless, but because divine compassion is. At this point, the soul also realizes something almost impossible for the human mind to imagine. Throughout every lifetime, someone was always guiding it. The Vedas speak of the divine presence dwelling within every heart as the eternal witness. While families changed, that presence remained. While bodies changed, that presence remained. While memories vanished, that presence remained. While civilizations disappeared, that presence remained. It silently watched every thought, every prayer, every tear, every act of courage, every mistake, not to condemn, but to patiently guide the soul home. Many people spend their lives searching for God somewhere beyond the stars, yet the sages repeatedly declared that the Supreme had never abandoned the soul for even a single moment. The separation existed only in ignorance. The divine was closer than every heartbeat, closer than every breath, closer than every thought. The soul simply forgot where to look. The sixth door is therefore not merely about escaping rebirth. It is about awakening from the greatest illusion ever experienced, the illusion of separation. As this realization deepens, an extraordinary peace begins to arise. Fear disappears because there is nothing left to lose. Death disappears because the soul was never born. Loneliness disappears because all existence is recognized as one divine reality. Competition disappears because there is no other. Even time begins to dissolve. Past and future lose their grip. Only eternal presence remains. The ancient rishis described this state not as excitement, but as profound stillness. A stillness beyond silence, a joy beyond pleasure, a freedom beyond imagination. No language can fully describe it. No philosophy can completely explain it. It must be experienced. This is why every sacred scripture ultimately points beyond words. Words can guide. Meditation can prepare. Wisdom can illuminate. But the final realization happens only within the awakened soul itself. As the sixth door slowly opens, the soul understands why every previous door existed. The door of separation taught that the body was temporary. The door of reflection revealed truth. The door of karma revealed responsibility. The door of higher realms revealed the rewards of righteous living. The door of returning or rising revealed the soul's freedom to continue evolving. But this sixth door reveals the greatest secret of all. The soul was never traveling to become divine. It had always carried the light of the divine within itself. It only needed to remember. And once that remembrance becomes complete, only one final doorway remains. The last door is not another destination. It is the doorway where the journey itself comes to its eternal end. Chapter 7. The seventh door, the door beyond return. Beyond the door of liberation stands the final passage. The Vedas describe it as the most sacred threshold a soul can ever approach, because every other door still belongs to movement. One door separates the soul from the body. Another reveals the truth of its life. Another unfolds the law of karma. Some open toward higher realms, while others return the soul to another birth. Even the door of liberation begins with awakening. But the seventh door is different. It does not lead to another body. It does not lead to another realm. It does not lead to another lesson, another identity, or another chapter in time. It is the door beyond return. For countless lifetimes, the soul has moved in circles so vast that the human mind cannot measure them. It has entered the world through birth, gathered relationships, carried responsibilities, struggled with desires, celebrated temporary victories, endured painful separations, and finally left the body through death. Then the journey began again under a different name, within a different family, in another place and another age. The surroundings changed, but the central search remained the same. The soul searched for lasting happiness in a world where everything changes. It searched for permanent security in possessions that could be lost. It searched for complete love in human beings who were themselves wounded, temporary, and still learning. It searched for identity through the body, although the body was always moving toward age and death. Again and again, the soul reached outward for something that could only be discovered within. The seventh door appears when this search finally ends. Not because the soul has received every object it ever desired, but because desire itself has lost its power to deceive. Not because the world has become perfect, but because the soul no longer demands perfection from an impermanent world. Not because every mystery has been answered in words, but because the one who needed answers has awakened beyond confusion. This is the highest transformation described in Vedic wisdom. The soul no longer asks, "What will happen to me next?" It recognizes that the one who feared the future was only a temporary identity created within the mind. It no longer asks, "Where will I go after death?" It realizes that its eternal nature was never truly confined to any place. It no longer asks, "Will I be remembered?" It understands that names belong to time, while the self belongs to eternity. At the seventh door, The soul no longer stands as a traveler looking for a destination. The traveler, the road, and the destination are recognized as expressions of one infinite reality. The ancient sages spoke carefully about this final state because ordinary language cannot contain it. Every word creates a division between one thing and another. Words say the soul reaches the divine, as though they were once separated. Words say the soul merges with the absolute, as though the soul had existed independently. Words say the journey ends, although the eternal self was never actually traveling. Language can point toward the truth, but it cannot become the truth. Imagine a space inside a clay pot. As long as the pot remains unbroken, the space appears separate from the vast sky surrounding it. We may call it the space within the pot and imagine that it belongs to that container. But when the pot breaks, where does the inner space go? It does not travel anywhere. It does not disappear. It was never truly separate from the sky. Only the walls created the appearance of separation. The body, the mind, the ego, memory, attachment, and personal identity are like the walls of that pot. For a lifetime, they create the feeling of being a separate individual surrounded by an external universe. The soul says, "This is me, and everything else is outside me." At the seventh door, the final wall disappears. The soul does not become infinite. It recognizes that it was never anything less. This recognition is moksha, the end of bondage, the end of compulsory rebirth, and the end of the illusion that consciousness is trapped within a temporary form. Many people imagine moksha as a distant reward waiting after death, yet the Vedas reveal that its seeds must awaken while one is still alive. Death can remove the physical body, but it cannot automatically remove attachment. It can silence the tongue, but it cannot erase the desires deeply planted within consciousness. It can separate a person from possessions, but it cannot guarantee inner detachment from those possessions. Freedom begins when the soul releases the world before the world is forced to release the soul. This does not mean abandoning family, duty, work, or human love. The Vedic path does not require every seeker to escape into the wilderness. It asks for something more difficult and more beautiful, to live fully within the world without becoming spiritually imprisoned by it. To love deeply, yet remember that no human being belongs to you. To work sincerely, yet release the arrogance of believing you control every result. To enjoy what life offers, yet remain prepared to let it go. To serve others, yet avoid the pride of imagining yourself their savior. To face pain, yet refuse to build an identity around suffering. To experience success, yet never confuse success with the value of the soul. The person who learns this has already begun walking toward the seventh door. During earthly life, the ego constantly tries to become permanent. It collects titles, possessions, memories, victories, wounds, and opinions, building a story it calls my life. It wants this story to continue forever. It fears anything that threatens its importance. But the soul's liberation requires the ending of that false center. The seventh door cannot be crossed by the ego because the ego is the very illusion left behind at its threshold. This is why surrender holds such an important place in the spiritual path. Surrender is often misunderstood as weakness. People imagine it means giving up, refusing responsibility, or accepting injustice. But Vedic surrender is not passivity. It is the courageous release of false control. The surrendered soul still acts. It still serves. It still protects what is right. It still follows dharma. But it no longer believes that its personal will stands above the wisdom of the universe. Such a soul says, "Let me act with purity, but let me not become attached to the fruit. Let me perform my duty, but let me remember that I am not the ultimate controller. Let my life become an offering rather than a demand." This surrender purifies action. Action without surrender creates chains. Action offered without selfish attachment creates freedom. The seventh door reveals that karma was never created only by movement of the body. Karma was created by the sense of ownership behind action. I did this. I deserve that. This result belongs to me. I am greater because I succeeded. I am destroyed because I failed. These statements strengthen the separate self. But when action becomes worship, the same life that once created bondage begins dissolving it. The farmer plants with devotion, but understands that sunlight and rain are not under his command. The healer serves with compassion, but knows that life and death are not controlled by human hands. The parent loves and guides a child, but accepts that the child carries an independent karmic journey. The seeker practices sincerely, but does not turn spiritual growth into another source of pride. Every role becomes sacred when performed without egoistic possession. As the soul approaches the door beyond return, it sees the complete meaning of all its former lifetimes. It remembers moments when greed seemed more important than peace. It remembers lives dominated by ambition, only to discover that achievement could not silence emptiness. It remembers relationships in which love became control. It remembers times when anger was protected as though resentment were a treasure. It remembers opportunities to forgive that were rejected because pride desired victory more than freedom. It remembers lifetimes in which spiritual truth was heard, admired, and then forgotten beneath the noise of ordinary desire. Yet at the seventh door, there is no hatred toward these former selves. There is immense compassion. The soul understands that ignorance was never its true nature. Ignorance was a covering, just as clouds cover the sun without damaging its light. Across countless experiences, the clouds slowly became thinner. Each lesson removed something. Each act of truth created an opening. Each moment of suffering forced the soul to question what it once blindly believed. Eventually, the light could no longer remain hidden. This is why no lifetime is completely wasted. Even a life filled with mistakes can become sacred when those mistakes awaken humility. Even suffering can become holy when it breaks the arrogance that kept wisdom outside. Even loss can become a doorway when it teaches the soul to seek what cannot be taken away. The universe uses everything. Nothing is outside the possibility of transformation. At the seventh door, the soul understands that the people who hurt it were not greater than the divine purpose operating through the encounter. This does not make cruelty righteous, nor does it excuse injustice. It means that darkness was never powerful enough to prevent awakening. What was intended to destroy the soul may have forced it to discover strength. What was meant to humiliate may have revealed the danger of ego. What was lost may have created the emptiness where spiritual longing finally arose. The awakened soul does not glorify pain. It transforms pain. It takes every wound and extracts wisdom from it. It takes every ending and discovers impermanence. It takes every betrayal and learns discernment. It takes every failure and discovers humility. It takes every death and remembers eternity. At this final door, the soul also recognizes that forgiveness was never primarily a gift to the offender. Forgiveness was the cutting of an invisible cord that kept consciousness bound to the past. As long as hatred remained, the person who caused pain continued living inside the mind. As long as revenge was desired, the soul remained connected to the very experience it wished to escape. As long as resentment became identity, freedom could not be complete. The seventh door asks the soul to carry nothing. No hatred, no pride, no shame, no unfinished desire for recognition, no longing to rewrite the past, no demand that life should have unfolded differently. Everything must be placed down. not because the past was meaningless, but because its lesson has already been received. Imagine a traveler standing before a narrow, sacred passage while carrying heavy bags gathered throughout a long journey. Each bag contains something once considered important: praise, insults, achievements, losses, possessions, relationships, fears, regrets, and dreams. The traveler tries to carry all of them through the final doorway, but the passage is too narrow. The bags cannot pass. Only the traveler can. Yet even this image is incomplete, because at the seventh door, the traveler also discovers that the identity of being a traveler must be released. The last burden is the idea of me. The Vedas describe ego as subtle because it can hide even within spirituality. A person may release worldly ambition but become proud of spiritual knowledge. They may stop competing for wealth but begin competing for purity. They may reject ordinary praise while secretly desiring recognition as wise, awakened, or holy. The ego can wear sacred clothing. It can speak of humility while quietly demanding admiration. It can memorize scripture while refusing transformation. It can discuss liberation while strengthening the one who wants to be liberated. At the seventh door, every disguise falls away. Knowledge that once belonged to the intellect must become lived realization. It is not enough to say, "I am not the body." Fear of death must actually disappear. It is not enough to say, "Everything belongs to the divine." The heart must be willing to release what it loves most. It is not enough to say, "All beings are one." Compassion must extend beyond convenience. It is not enough to speak about detachment. Peace must remain even when life takes away what the ego believed it needed. The final door responds only to truth embodied. For some souls, this may sound impossible. How can any human being become completely free from attachment, desire, fear, and ego? The Vedas answer with patience. Liberation is not accomplished through one dramatic moment of force. It is prepared through thousands of small awakenings. Every time you choose truth over deception, the door moves closer. Every time you release anger instead of feeding it, another chain weakens. Every time you serve without seeking praise, the ego loses ground. Every time you remember the eternal self in the middle of worldly pressure, the illusion of separation becomes thinner. Every time you accept change without losing inner balance, consciousness matures. Every time you return to the divine after wandering into distraction, the path becomes clearer. The spiritual journey is not built only in temples, forests, or moments of meditation. It is built in ordinary life. It is built when you are insulted and must choose whether to answer from ego or wisdom. It is built when success arrives and you must decide whether gratitude or arrogance will enter your heart. It is built when someone you love changes, leaves, or dies, and you must learn whether love can survive without possession. It is built when no one is watching, when no reward is promised, and when righteousness appears more difficult than compromise. Those are the moments when the final door is quietly being prepared. As the soul stands before it, the idea of time begins to vanish completely. There is no longer a past filled with regret, or a future filled with expectation. There is only presence, the eternal now. The sages taught that ordinary consciousness divides existence into what has happened and what may happen. It moves between memory and imagination, rarely touching the reality before it. But the liberated soul is no longer pulled in these directions. It does not live through memory. It does not live through anticipation. It rests in pure awareness. This awareness is not empty in the sense of lifelessness. It is full beyond measure. It contains peace without dependence, love without object, knowledge without thought, and existence without fear. Human pleasure depends on conditions. This joy does not. Human peace depends on circumstances. This peace remains beyond circumstances. Human identity depends on memory. This awareness exists even when memory is gone. At the seventh door, the soul recognizes that everything it ever loved was an expression of the one eternal reality. The beauty of the sky was sacred because the divine shone through it. The love of a mother was sacred because universal compassion moved through her heart. The wisdom of a teacher was sacred because truth used a human voice. The courage of a protector was sacred because dharma expressed itself through action. Nothing pure was ever separate from the source. The soul had spent lifetimes loving fragments without recognizing the infinite wholeness shining through them. Now the fragments return to unity. This does not destroy love. It perfects it. Personal love often says, "You are mine." Divine love says, "You are sacred." Personal love fears separation. Divine love recognizes that the deepest self was never divided. Personal love can become wounded when expectations fail. Divine love gives because giving is its nature. At the door beyond return, love is freed from possession. The soul no longer loves one being while remaining indifferent to another. It sees the same sacred essence hidden beneath every form. The saint and the sinner carry it. The wise and the ignorant carry it. The human and the animal carry it. The tree, the river, the mountain, and the stars exist within the same infinite field of being. Differences remain at the level of form, but separation disappears at the level of essence. This realization transforms compassion from a moral duty into a natural expression of awareness. When the soul sees itself in all beings, harming another becomes impossible without harming itself. Serving another becomes no different from serving the divine. This is why the greatest sages did not become cold or distant after awakening. True detachment did not reduce their love, it made their love limitless. They no longer needed the world to complete them, so they became capable of serving the world without using it. They no longer demanded love, so they became sources of love. They no longer feared death, so they could live courageously. They no longer protected a false identity, so truth could speak through them without obstruction. The seventh door represents the complete flowering of this consciousness. Yet even now, one final shadow may remain: the desire for liberation itself. As long as the soul says, "I want moksha," there is still a separate I trying to obtain something. The desire is higher than worldly desire, but it still contains duality, the seeker and the freedom being sought. At the last threshold, even this sacred desire must dissolve. The soul does not seize liberation. Liberation remains when the one trying to seize it disappears. This is the great paradox of the spiritual path. The ego cannot achieve its own ending. It can perform disciplines, study sacred knowledge, practice restraint, and approach the threshold. But the final step is not an achievement. It is surrender so complete that no achiever remains. The river does not conquer the ocean. It enters and loses the identity of being a separate river. For miles, it carried a name, a direction, a history, and visible boundaries. Villages formed beside it. People pointed to it and called it by a particular name. But when it reaches the ocean, its water does not vanish. Only its separateness ends. The Vedas use such images to help the mind approach what cannot be captured in thought. At the seventh door, the river of individual identity enters the ocean of infinite consciousness. Nothing real is lost. Only limitation is lost. Only fear is lost. Only ignorance is lost. Only the dream of separation is lost. What remains cannot be born and cannot die. It cannot be cut, burned, drowned, or destroyed. It was present before the first body. It remained through every lifetime. It witnessed every thought, every desire, every dream, and every death. It is the silent awareness reading these words through you now. The journey after death is therefore not only a future mystery, it is a mirror held before the present moment. The 7 doors ask how you are living today. Are you strengthening the identity that must one day be surrendered? Are you collecting burdens your soul cannot carry? Are you feeding desires that will pull consciousness back toward another birth? Are you postponing forgiveness as though time were guaranteed? Are you living according to dharma or merely according to comfort? Are you remembering the eternal self or spending every day serving a temporary image? Death does not suddenly create the direction of the soul. It reveals the direction already formed through life. A river reaches the ocean because it has been moving toward it. A soul reaches freedom because its consciousness has been moving toward truth. The 7th door is shaped by every moment before it. This is why the wise do not wait for old age to begin awakening. Old age is not promised. Death does not consult the calendar. The body may end after 100 years or before tomorrow's sunrise. But spiritual preparation is not measured by age, it is measured by awareness. A young person who understands impermanence may be closer to wisdom than an old person who remains chained to desire. A poor person with a generous heart may be spiritually wealthier than a king. An unknown individual who lives truthfully may stand closer to liberation than someone praised by millions. The soul carries no social position through the final door. It carries only consciousness. At the 7th door, every external measurement disappears. There are no titles, no nationalities, no divisions of high and low, no possessions, no physical beauty, no worldly authority. Only the quality of awareness remains. This truth is not meant to make life meaningless. It makes life infinitely precious, because every moment becomes an opportunity to awaken from illusion before death removes the things we were forced to leave anyway. You can release pride now. You can forgive now. You can live your dharma now. You can love without possession now. You can remember the eternal self now. You do not have to wait for the 7th door to begin laying down what cannot pass through it. The final passage becomes peaceful for the one who has practiced surrender throughout life. A person who has learned to release small things is prepared to release the body. A person who has accepted change is prepared for the greatest change. A person who has lived in truth is not terrified when illusion falls away. A person who has remembered the divine does not feel abandoned when the world disappears. For such a soul, death is not an enemy arriving to destroy life. It is the final opening through which eternal life reveals itself. The 7th door begins to open. No sound announces it. No earthly light can describe what appears. There is no judgment left, because all karma has been dissolved. There is no destination left, because all distance was created by illusion. There is no future birth waiting, because the desires that once created birth have ended. There is no fear, because there is no separate self left to defend. The soul looks back upon the endless journey, not with regret, but with immeasurable gratitude. Every lifetime brought it closer. Every teacher carried part of the message. Every enemy revealed an attachment. Every love awakened a glimpse of unity. Every loss exposed impermanence. Every death removed another temporary garment. Every sincere prayer became a step. Every moment of awareness became a flame. Every act of selfless love weakened the walls of separation. Nothing was wasted. The path was longer than the mind could imagine, but the destination had always been nearer than breath. The soul had searched through worlds. It had searched through relationships. It had searched through pleasure, knowledge, achievement, and devotion. Yet the eternal truth had never been outside. The final door reveals that the home the soul sought was its own deepest nature. And when this recognition becomes complete, the 7 doors disappear. There is no longer separation, no longer reflection, no longer karma, no higher realm to enter, no birth to return to, no liberation to achieve, no final doorway to cross. There is only the infinite. Timeless, silent, whole, the journey ends not because the soul has been destroyed, but because the illusion of being separate from the source has ended forever. This is the door beyond return, the threshold after which no birth is required, the silence beyond every question, the freedom beyond every world, the truth the Vedas have whispered across the ages. You were never merely a body traveling toward death. You were eternal consciousness, slowly awakening from the dream of separation. And when the 7th door finally opens, the soul does not enter the divine. It remembers that it had never been outside the divine at all. You have now walked through the 7 doors the Vedas place beyond death, the door of separation, the door of reflection, the door of karma, the door of higher realms, the door of returning or rising, the door of liberation, and finally, the door beyond return. But these doors are not only waiting at the end of life. They are already opening within you. Every time you release an attachment, you pass through separation. Every time you face the truth about your actions, you enter reflection. Every choice plants karma. Every act of compassion raises your consciousness. Every lesson you accept determines whether your soul must return or is ready to rise. Every moment of self-knowledge brings liberation closer, and every time the illusion of separation dissolves, even briefly, you stand before the final door. The deepest message of this journey is not that death should be feared. It is that life should not be wasted. You were not given this body merely to collect possessions, chase approval, repeat old wounds, and then disappear. You were given this life as a sacred opportunity to awaken, to love without possessing, to act without selfish attachment, to forgive before resentment becomes part of your identity, to fulfill your dharma while there is still breath within you. One day, the world will ask you to release everything: your name, your body, your achievements, your regrets, the people you loved, the future you imagined. Nothing external will cross the final threshold with you. Only the consciousness you created will remain. So live today in a way that makes your soul lighter. Speak words you will not regret when the door of reflection opens. Perform actions you will not fear when the door of karma reveals their consequences. Release desires that would pull you back into another cycle. Seek not merely a better life, but a more awakened state of being. The 7 doors are not a prediction of doom. They are an invitation to freedom. The soul that remembers its eternal nature does not wait for death to begin awakening. It begins now, in the middle of ordinary life, through ordinary decisions, with extraordinary awareness. And when your final moment arrives, may you not leave this world as someone who spent a lifetime running from the truth. May you leave as a soul that recognized the temporary, fulfilled its duty, released what could not be kept, and remembered what could never be lost. For beyond every body, every lifetime, every realm, and every door, one truth remains unchanged. You are not moving toward eternity. You have always been part of it.